You're listening to the Charm City Birdwatch podcast. I'm Jake McDonald, and joining me on the line today to recap a crazy weekend of divisional NFL football. We now have the two AFC and NFC championship matches all set up, which we will break down. And of course, we want to talk about all the games that just happened this past weekend. So joining me on the Charm City Birdwatch podcast are our two insiders, Nolan McGraw and Tyler Feaser. You can find them on Twitter at Nolan_MCG and at Tyler_Feaser. Obviously, we've had lots of coverage with the NFL playoffs going on, the Terps playing college hoops, of course, the Orioles doing some dealings, most recently the Yovani Gallardo trade that brought in Seth Smith to the Orioles, and then, of course, the Ravens' decision to hire Greg Roman to help with the run game, and, of course, the State of the Ravens press conference, all that going on last week. But this week, more centered on the NFL divisional recap. So here to break it down are our two analysts, Nolan and Tyler. So the first game, the Saturday game is the first one, 36-20, Atlanta over Seattle. Kind of expected this one to maybe be a little bit closer than it was. I think most people were expecting a little bit of a shootout, but certainly it was the Seahawks struck first, and it was all Atlanta after that, coming away with a 16-point difference. Matt Ryan throwing for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns. Julio Jones, 6 receptions for 67 yards, but he did not have the most reception yards in the game for Atlanta and a touchdown with that. So, Nolan, we'll go to you first. Really, I mean, we know about Seattle's road struggles all season, and certainly they did not get it done again against the Falcons this weekend, and now the Falcons, with the best season Matt Ryan's ever played and the 8th best offense in NFL history, are going to get a chance to host the NFC Championship in the last game ever played in the Georgia Dome. So what did you take away from this game?
Yeah, this game was all about Atlanta for me. They really impressed me, specifically Matt Ryan. Just going in, he only had one playoff win at this point in his career. I think it was fair to question him and his ability. But he proved me wrong, and I think he proved a lot of people wrong. As for Seattle, they were definitely disappointing. Wilson's 2 interceptions are unacceptable in a playoff game. That's just plain and simple. But yeah, other than that, we guess we could talk about Devin Hester. I know a lot of people want to talk about Hester. But for me, I just don't get why a returner needs to return kickoffs under the new rules. It just doesn't make sense to me. With touchbacks starting at the 25-yard line, there's just no reason to return any kicks that go into the end zone, but that's just me. So I thought starting every drive inside the 25-yard line was pretty critical for Seattle.
Yeah, and they had lots of penalties on special teams. Really, Hester, I can't remember. I believe it was a punt return where he got it way down to Atlanta territory and it ended up being called back on a holding call. And I think that happened a couple times with Seattle in the game. But really, Hester having a great game for the Seahawks, just pulling up he had 5 kick returns for 194 yards for a long of 78. And then, of course, he didn't have any yardage for the punt returns because, either they were down by the Falcons or they got called back because of holding penalties. But we've really, we've seen Hester 3/4 of the season with the Ravens here, and he wasn't able to get anything done. Of course, he had all the injuries, and, of course, the Ravens had penalty issues of their own. Tyler, I'll let you get into the breakdown of the Falcons and Seahawks game, what you took away from it, too. What did you think of this whole Hester situation? I wasn't really upset at Hester. I was more upset at Ravens coaching and special teams coaching and personnel, which who knows, I'm getting into all the specifics there. There's so much that could be taken away from Hester in his big game, quite possibly his last game, as he alluded to after the game, saying he was probably going to retire. But were you upset when you saw Hester did what he did on Saturday?
Not completely. I don't really blame his ability per se. I look at it more when you look at his tape with the Ravens. I don't think when he actually caught the ball with the Ravens and actually attempted to return the ball, he showed flashes of what he did on Saturday against Atlanta. it seems like he still has the ability to take them back, and he obviously does, showing the, what was it, like, what did you say, 78 or 79 yard punt return. The biggest problem with Baltimore this year was the fact that he would let balls go and just bounce on the 10-yard line, and Baltimore would end up starting inside the 5-yard line. It seemed like every single game. I don't think the problem was necessarily the coaching or the personnel on the Ravens special team. I think it was more his decision making with Baltimore than anything. Maybe I questioned the coaching a little bit with Baltimore, and the fact that they weren't getting on him more to fair catch the ball more, even on the 10 or 12-yard line, than letting it bounce on the 10 or 12-yard line and resulting in the ball being down inside the 5-yard line every time, or replacing him earlier. But other than that, I don't really have a huge issue with anything that the Ravens did with Hester, and I don't really blame Hester too much. It's just seeing the way history has gone. I kind of expected it, to be completely honest, the way things have played out. So, other observations with that game, though, it was a little surprising with Seattle, the way that they had played, but like you guys had talked about, I think the way Atlanta played, that was kind of the way everybody expected it to be, almost to a T. That they came out firing on both sides, well, in all three phases of the game, really. It's just Seattle kind of laid an egg on the offensive side of the ball, and maybe didn't play quite as well on the defensive side of the ball as what they maybe expected. But overall, it was a fairly exciting game to watch. It was a decent game. It maybe could have been a little bit closer, but overall, it wasn't a bad game to watch, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, the big takeaway that I found from this game was simply Matt Ryan's performance. I mean, they had success rushing and through the air, as where Seattle didn't, with Wilson throwing 2 picks and Russell Wilson actually finishing as the leading rusher on the Seahawks ahead of Thomas Rawls. But Matt Ryan, he, due to his lack of playoff success and the past criticism that he's faced, going 1-3 in the playoffs, he performed very well. As I alluded to, throwing for 338 and 3 touchdowns, spreading the ball around to 8 different receivers, and of course the rushing attack of Coleman and Freeman very complimentary. The 8th highest scoring offense in the NFL. They're gonna be a dangerous attack, a formidable attack going up against the Packers next Sunday, which will certainly be interesting to see. Matt Ryan's second ever conference championship matchup. It's gonna be interesting to see how he performs as they have a chance to go to his first ever Super Bowl. So moving on to the game on Saturday night with the Patriots defeating the Texans 34-16. Kind of what everybody was expecting here. I think everyone was kind of expecting a similar score to what we saw, but in the first half, it was kind of a different story with the halftime score being 17 to 13 New England. But really, the Texans played decently in the first half. Their defense kept them in the game, and then the second half kind of pulled away from them. So Tyler, what did you think of New England's performance on Saturday, and I guess Houston as well? But taking away as the Patriots get ready to host the AFC Championship, what do you think of this performance against Houston?
I don't necessarily think that New England played bad. I just think Houston played pretty well. Everybody knows Houston has a pretty darn good defense. They have the number 1 scoring defense in the league this year. And like I had mentioned last week in prep for this past weekend's games, there's a lot of Houston Texans that were past Patriots. They weren't going to just roll over and die and just say, oh, everybody is counting us out, so we might as well just not even play the game. You knew that they were going to play hard, and you know that they were going to give everything that they had. So everybody wants to say, oh, it was New England that played badly. Well, maybe they didn't play as well as what they have looked throughout the entire year, but maybe we should give some credit to Houston and say, okay, maybe they actually played pretty well. But at the same time, let's also take a look at who New England has played this year. the best team that they played all year was Seattle, and they played them at home and they lost. So New England really hasn't played anybody all that great this year. You look at all the quarterbacks that they've played this year, nobody really that good. The best one that they played, Russell Wilson, they lost to. So, well, people will say, oh, they played the Steelers. Well, look at who's the quarterback that started for Pittsburgh that week. They played Landry Jones. Landry Jones almost beat them. Well, this upcoming week they'll play Ben Roethlisberger. So it'll be a different game this week. So, just, I mean, we'll see. I mean, everybody wants to automatically crown New England for next week. When, I mean, New England is a good team. Don't get me wrong, but it can be misleading. Everybody wants to look at their record, but in reality, they haven't that great of teams all season. So, if you play good, sound defense, and you get pressure on Brady, that's the formula to beat them. And Houston did that this week. And a better offense with a better quarterback, you can beat them. And Houston showed that this past week.
Nolan, what did you think after watching this game on Saturday night? You know, Osweiler pretty much didn't stand a chance, finishing with a 13.9 QBR, only throwing for 198 and 3 interceptions. How do you feel about this one after watching it on Saturday night?
Yeah, I just kind of, in my prediction in the article we wrote, I said that I thought the Houston defense really, really had a good shot at getting Brady to turn the ball over, you know, maybe once or twice. But I just was not confident in Osweiler and the offense to do something with that. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it wasn't just the first half. At one point in the fourth quarter, the Houston defense got a huge stop, forced the Patriots to punt, and got Osweiler the ball back when they were down by just 8 points. I mean, that's one possession in the fourth quarter. That's ridiculous, you know. So, you know, Osweiler didn't get the job done, not too surprising. But other than that, nothing really to take away.
Moving on to Sunday, of course, the Steelers game and the Chiefs game got moved to 8 o'clock due to the impending ice storm. I know after that happened, I put up a little blurb on our article that we put up last week just saying that it had been moved. So that meant that the Green Bay-Dallas game, of course, being the one played first on Sunday, of course, that was just a crazy shootout with Green Bay pulling away 34-31. Taking a look at the play-by-play right now, in the fourth quarter, the final 4 drives, Dallas touchdown and then two field goals by the Packers and a field goal by the Cowboys. So it was 28-21 Green Bay late in the fourth quarter, and then Dallas answered with an 11-play, 80-yard drive capped off with a touchdown, finished off by a 7-yard touchdown reception from Dez Bryant. And then, of course, the Packers get it back with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They go down the field, of course, then with 1:33 left. Mason Crosby, who had a hell of a game, especially in the fourth quarter now, kicked a 56-yard field goal. So that means Dallas gets the ball back with 1:33 left. They managed to go down the field and kick a field goal with 35 seconds left. But once on this drive, it was with 1:07 left on 1st and 10. They spiked the ball, which really a lot of people are criticizing right now because that, of course, left 35 seconds on the clock with the field goal. They end up kicking on 4th down. And, of course, we all know what happened on the next drive. With just 35 seconds left and a 3rd and 20 right now on Green Bay's own 32-yard line, Aaron Rodgers managed to throw a 36-yard pass to tight end Jared Cook that was just barely in bounds, but it was one of the greatest plays I've ever seen a quarterback make. He was getting pressured in the pocket, managed to scramble outside, run to his left, and find Jared Cook just on the inside. And with 3 seconds left, the Packers managed to get a 51-yard field goal with Mason Crosby, sending them to the AFC Championship game against the Falcons. Nolan, I want to start with you. This game, definitely the best game of the weekend, in my opinion. Lived up to expectations, and I found it. I want to get both your takes on this. I kind of found it funny. I was talking to Tyler a little bit about this last night. So many people picked the Packers last week, and then we all, as we know, we all picked the Giants. And after that, a bunch of experts were like, "Oh, well, you never bet against Aaron Rodgers." And then those same experts ended up picking against Aaron Rodgers this week, and picking the Cowboys, while all of us went with Green Bay and picking Aaron Rodgers. And for one, I listened to their advice and didn't pick against Aaron Rodgers, and I certainly, I feel a lot better about this week than I did last week picking against him. So, I just goes to show that it's Aaron Rodgers' world, and we're living in it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. That is pretty funny. I know last week we all kind of made the statement that it's hard to bet against him going into this week. Well, now it's just impossible to bet against him at this point. That sideline completion to Cook was just simply amazing, like you said. I thought the game was going into overtime after they took a sack earlier on that drive, which also impressed me because Rodgers held onto the ball with one hand on that sack. He got blindsided, and he was able to hold on to it. That was more impressive to me. Maybe almost more impressive than the sideline completion, because if he dropped that ball there, it was probably an easy win for Dallas. They just line up and kick the field goal. The only thing with this game, though, the only thing I question with Green Bay is their defense once again. Going into the playoffs, I questioned them, and then against the Giants, they showed up and played well, and now this week they revert back to their subpar play, so they're in question once again, so they could be the only problem with this team.
Yeah, and it's not like the Cowboys, didn't put up a fight. Dak Prescott finishing with over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott rushing for 125 yards. But it just came down to Rodgers again, throwing for 356, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Tyler, Nolan put it great when he said it's basically impossible to pick against Aaron Rodgers right now. I mean, I read tweets after the game. I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently Packers players on the offensive side were saying that it wasn't even that third down play where he completed it to Cook for the 36 yards. It wasn't even a play call of the playbook. He literally was standing in the huddle telling receivers where to go, and of course, he scrambles out, has all that time to throw, and is getting chased and finds Cook down the sideline. I don't know anyone, of course, we're only, early 20s. We haven't, watched all the great quarterbacks of the generations, Dan Marino, you can name them all, Joe Montana. We haven't seen all those quarterbacks yet. We hear all these experts say, and people that have been in the game a long time say they've never seen anything like Aaron Rodgers, and I tend to believe them. Just simply incredible things we're seeing week after week. He seems to always show up in the postseason, barely with any pieces, as Nolan alluded to. Disappointing defense. He didn't have his number one wideout, Jordy Nelson. They don't really have a run game. They have one of their wide receivers as their top runner right now, who only ran for 47 yards yesterday. Just amazing what he's able to do with the talent he has around him. You can't pick against him right now. It's just that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of disagree with in saying that he doesn't have any talent around him. I think the people that come in, you could say that he doesn't necessarily have the talent around him that some others have when they arrive. But you look at guys like Brady and Rodgers, the guys that they have around them, they are what they are because of those guys. You look at guys like Julian Edelman and Jordy Nelson and Ty Montgomery, Danny Amendola. Those guys are producing the way that they are now because of how good of quarterbacks that they have. They're making them better receivers. And I think
real quickly, I just want to say a lot of people picked against the Packers this week because of the fact that Aaron Rodgers didn't have his top wideout in Jordy Nelson. And in my mind, that doesn't matter because, like you said, the people they have around them are better because of Aaron Rodgers.
The Packers won last week against the Giants without having Jordy Nelson the entire game as well. They lost Jordy Nelson with like 3 minutes into the game the previous week, and this week they had an entire week of preparation without Jordy Nelson. So if they won a game where they had to win a game against a really, really good defense without their number one receiver, basically playing the entire game without him, why would it be any different in that they had an entire week of preparation where they knew that they weren't going to have the guy? I just thought it was more likely that they could win without having Nelson against a worse defense, and they knew that they weren't going to have their number one guy, than it was the previous week when you lose him 3 minutes into the game against a better defense. That's just my opinion. But I just think that goes to show how good Rodgers is. But I thought the concerning part was, as good as Rodgers played, I thought it was concerning how they basically go the entire third quarter with doing nothing on offense. I mean, I know Dallas's offense is really good and can score really quickly, as they showed yesterday. But at the same time, Atlanta's offense can put up points even faster than Dallas's offense. And if Green Bay's offense goes quiet like they did yesterday, next week against Atlanta in Atlanta, they might not be as lucky next week. So it's definitely going to make for an amazing game next week. It's just they're going to have to – Green Bay's offense is going to have to continue to score points. They're not going to be able to go quiet for a quarter or a quarter and a half and expect to win like they did yesterday.
And the final game of divisional weekend was an 18-16 victory, the Steelers over the Chiefs. The Steelers being able to do it without scoring a touchdown, and really in Kansas City, when you're playing on your home field after a bye, we know Andy Reid's history, scheme-wise coming off the bye. When you come in there and you're playing on a bye on your home stadium and you lose to the Steelers, who did not score a touchdown, and you can't keep up with them, really says a lot to either how good the Steelers are. I mean, we all know how good their defense is playing, or how much the Chiefs shouldn't have been the number 2 seed, which I think if Derek Carr had stayed healthy, the Raiders would have easily gotten the number 2 seed, and the Chiefs would have had a wild card, and we could have had a whole different story here. I want to go to you first. Obviously the Steelers being able to score 18 points, that was enough to get it done. Of course, the Chiefs ended up answering with a touchdown late in the game, but on a 2-point conversion when they were trying to tie the game, they actually converted it. But then a holding call on the Kansas City left tackle on James Harrison moved the ball back to a 2-point conversion being attempted from the 12-yard line. It was unsuccessful, and then, of course, the Steelers get the ball back around the clock out. So what did you think of particularly how this one played out and ended?
It was pretty surprising, especially not to see a touchdown from Pittsburgh. And it's not like Bell, Brown, and Ben didn't have good games. They had really good games, as usual, but they just didn't get into the end zone. And usually, if you could say that you kept those 3 guys out of the end zone, you'd probably win the game, but that's not the case this week. Credit to Boswell, though, for making all 6 field goals, 1 miss, and it could have been a very different game, obviously, with the final score. And then, like you said, on Kansas City's touchdown, that holding call was pretty blatant. I mean, he had Harrison hooked up. But, yeah, just disappointing for Kansas City.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, and that holding call was a good call. I can't dispute it. He had Harrison on the ground. Good call by the officials there. Tyler, I know I talked to you a lot last night about this game. You after a night of being able to digest this, how do you feel about this game and Pittsburgh going forward? Because I know you had some pretty good arguments with Pittsburgh making their case to eventually could possibly quite be the AFC champions after next weekend. What do you think after having a night to sleep on this one?
I mean, nothing really changed. I mean, Kansas City. I mean, I didn't think either team played extremely well. I didn't think either team played extremely badly either. I mean, Bell played by far the best of any player on the field, in my opinion. I mean, nobody even came close.
170 rushing yards on 30 carries.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't anybody that even he was so far above everybody else. It was like you have a potential at the level of play. You essentially had like a Hall of Fame level of play and then like high schooler level of play, in my opinion. That's how offsetting it was for the level of play, in my opinion. It was just nobody else played extremely well. Boswell did what he was supposed to. I mean, everybody will say, "Oh, Boswell played extremely well." I mean, yeah, I mean he did what he was supposed to, but I mean, as long as field goal was, I think, 45 yards. I mean, yeah, he did what he was supposed to, but it wasn't like he hit 3 50-plus yard field goals. Kansas City's offense looked like Kansas City's offense. I mean, just looked ugly. Kansas City's defense, I mean, it didn't look good. I mean, it didn't look terrible, but it did what it was supposed to once it got into the red zone. It kind of looked like the Ravens offense. It was the bend, don't break, just let them drive down the field, and then once you get into the red zone, just stiffen up and don't let them into the end zone. But it was the ultimate doom. I mean, the game could have been, you think about it, the game could have been out of hand had Ben not thrown that red zone interception. If he would have just ran the ball like he was supposed to, he was the one that would cost them. If Pittsburgh would have lost the game, it would have been on Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger, again, in my opinion, did not play well on the road. If they would have lost, it would have been completely his fault, in my opinion. He should have ran the ball, but he checked to a pass, which caused that interception. If he would have ran the ball, it would have been a touchdown. The game would have been over at that point, and nobody would have worried about it. But no harm, no foul. It doesn't really matter at this point. They ended up winning anyway. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how good or bad you play. I mean, it doesn't matter if you win by 2 points or 22 points. A win's a win. It doesn't really matter. So, and I don't think they care how they win either. So, on to next week, I guess.
Yep, certainly on to next week. And before we dive into that a little bit, I don't want to take this time to wish everybody out there a happy Martin Luther King Day. From all of us at Charm City Birdwatch, of course, our two experts here breaking down the divisional weekend in the NFL and previewing the conference championships. Of course, Jake McDonald here, and then, of course, you have Nolan McGraw and Tyler Feaser. Check them out on Twitter at Tyler_Feaser, at Nolan_MCG. You can find me on Twitter at JMcDonald95 and us on Charm City Birdwatch. We are CharmCityBirdwatch.com. All of our social media as well is on our website. So we're going to do a quick preview of the conference championships coming up this weekend. Of course, no picks provided in this segment. We're going to do that all in our preview article, which will be coming up later this week. But first, we're just going to take a quick peek at all these previews coming up, all these games. Of course, the first game on Sunday, both games taking place on Sunday on Fox first at 3 o'clock. You have the Packers at the Falcons. This will be officially the last game played inside the Georgia Dome as the Falcons get ready to move into Mercedes-Benz Stadium next year, which looks like it's going to be great. Nolan, first, I want to get your opinion on this game. Of course, we have top two of the best quarterbacks in the league. Aaron Rodgers going up against Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's second NFC Championship game. The first one didn't go so well against San Francisco, but he has a time to, a lot of people point to the Joe Flacco versus Matt Ryan argument, with Flacco winning a ring and Ryan only having 2 playoff wins right now. But certainly looks like Matt Ryan might get the opportunity to show how good he is and prove that he was the best quarterback out of that class. Big game for them as well as the Packers, who haven't made the Super Bowl since 2010 when they beat the Steelers. And if they do win this game, they will be going to another Super Bowl in Texas. They won their Super Bowl a few years back in Dallas. Of course, if they go to the Super Bowl, it will be in Houston again. So big game. This game has 38-35 or plus written all over it. Likely a shootout. What do you think?
Yeah, that was going to be my main point. Is this thing has high-scoring shootout written all over it. I mean, Atlanta's defense definitely better than Green Bay's defense, but obviously we have talked about Aaron Rodgers enough on this podcast, so I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, this one should be really, really exciting, high-scoring. I'm ready to watch this one right now, honestly.
Short and sweet, plain and simple, as we both, as all three of us have mentioned multiple times. Both offenses playing at an extremely high level. The winner of this game is going to be the team that has the defense that makes the most stops in this one.
Second game, the AFC Championship game coming up at 6:40 on Sunday will be on CBS. The Steelers traveling to New England. Of course, these two teams met earlier this year. And then the New England picked up a victory in Pittsburgh. But as Tyler alluded to earlier, Ben Roethlisberger missed this game, will be playing in this game. And, of course, I saw a lot of tweets last night. Collective groans, collective uhs, collective grosses me being muttered all over Baltimore with the Patriots and the Steelers, who arguably are the Ravens' top rivals. I should say are the top two rivals of the Ravens. Certainly going to be hard for Ravens fans to sit down and watch this one, no matter who comes out on top going to the Super Bowl. So, Tyler, I'll start with you. What do you think heading into this one between these two teams?
I do have an opinion. As Ravens fans, I don't have an issue one way or another. I can see it from both sides as Ravens fans. If one side, if you want the Steelers to win, I think it would be an easy decision to pick the Steelers for you wanting them to win. I also think it would be an easy decision picking for you wanting the Patriots to win. Ultimately, I think the key to the game is, again, which defense is going to play better. Both offenses are going to play at a high level, so which defense can make more stops?
Yeah, this one just hurts, plain and simple. Watching this one's going to be rough. My advice to Ravens fans, though, is don't focus on the fact that one of these teams is going to the Super Bowl. Focus on the fact that one of these teams is going to suffer a crushing, heartbreaking defeat next Sunday. So focus on that. But, yeah, like you guys said, this one should be really good. I would say, though, that I believe the Steelers are the better all-around team, but that's all I'm going to say at this time. I'll save the picks for later.
Yeah, certainly. We will get into that all later this week with our preview article, just as we have been doing over the past weeks here at Charm City Birdwatch, with the picks coming up in the preview articles. We'll save that later for this week. And any Ravens or Orioles breaking news, we will have that up on the website, as well as any Terps coverage. Nolan's been great with that, and anything. Tyler, of course, I guess our most recent articles, Nolan covered the Greg Roman story, but he also had all the Terps coverage. Tyler has a great article up on Charm City right now, taking a look at possible cap casualties for the Ravens this offseason, so that's certainly still relevant. And, of course, I did the 5 takeaways from the State of the Ravens press conference last week. Check all that out at CharmCityBirdwatch.com. Once again, our 2 experts, our 2 writers on staff joining us today, Tyler Fieser and Nolan McGraw. So check them out. Check me out. And check us out on Facebook at Facebook.com/CharmCityBirdwatch, on Instagram as Charm City Birdwatch, and on Twitter at CharmCityBW. I want to thank you again for tuning in to this NFL Divisional Breakdown Recap podcast, and I want to tell all of you to be sure to sit down and enjoy, or I guess for Ravens fans specifically, enjoy these games, particularly the AFC Championship game, as much as you can. And once again, we will have anything coverage-wise up at CharmCityBirdwatch.com. So once again, I'm Jake McDonald. Thank you again for tuning in, and enjoy the conference championship games next weekend. We are just 3 weeks away from the Super Bowl, and it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top next weekend.